Hello. Welcome to my RMPS project on morality and justice. Today we will be answering the question, does prison work? Surely, if prison works, then the public should know the statistics of prison and hardships within them. I have interviewed my family to see their uneducated guesses on why prison to many can work or not. Okay, so how much do you think Scotland spends on its prisons per year?
1 million.
800 million?
400 million?
Okay. Well, the actual answer to that is 230 million.
Oh!
So what is your reaction on that?
I think that's obviously a lot lower than I thought.
So why did you think it was so high?
Because there's a lot of people in prison. But, I've miscalculated.
So why do you think this is so high?
Cause, the prisoners, want more stuff, they feel happy in prison.
Okay. Well, the actual statistic is 230 million. So why do you think this is lower than you expected?
To be honest, it wasn't something that I had much of a handle on, the figures. I don't even know the number of prisoners there are in Scotland. It's not something I could put so much per head or whatever. I would have thought it was probably a bit higher than quarter of a billion, but I really, there's been a policy of trying not to put people in for short periods, which is to try and ease the problems in the prisons. But I don't know.
How many assaults do you think that there were in England and Wales last year in prisons?
Assaults?
Yes.
5,000.
200,000 or 300,000.
30,000.
Well, the actual answer is 30,000 approximately.
Wow.
So
Okay.
what are your opinions on that?
That's high. It doesn't surprise me because I suppose assaults will happen every day, multiple times in prisons.
So why did you think it was so high?
Well, I reckon there were about 80,000 prisoners, so I reckon there would be a lot of assaults. But obviously, there's so much written about it. I think you get so much written up about difficulties in prisons. It probably is a case of, because there's so much exposure to it, that you get a disproportionate view of it.
Alright.
You're bang on, Sam.
Because they've been watching too much Family Guy.
So why would watching Family Guy make you want to assault someone?
Cause they've been watching too much fighting episodes.
Oh
wait,
How many instances of self-harm do you think there was in prisons in England and Wales last year?
3,000?
Well, you're way off because it's 43,000.
Wow, of self-harm.
Yeah.
So more people harm themselves than are harmed by others in prison.
Yeah. Why do you think this is?
That's a very sad statistic, I suppose. That's people feeling hopeless.
What percentage of crime ever committed was committed by people who had a poor education?
25, cause some kids are mad.
80.
The actual answer is 80% is caused by kids with poor education. Why do you think this number is so high, Sam?
Cause Some kids had abusive parents, or they drank up.
Because there's different types of crime. So I would say financial crime, for instance, wouldn't have to be associated with a poorer background, but an awful lot of robbery and so on probably is.
How many times higher are self-inflicted deaths in prison than in the outside? 95%, because they can't take it anymore in prison.
I would say maybe 4 or 5 times.
5.
Well, it's actually 5.1 times more. So why do you think this is so much higher? Because they can't stand it anymore and they want to end their life because they are sick of prison. The dropping the soap.
I think that sometimes people end up in prison because they're in their life opportunities are very limited in the first place. Then they end up in prison, they're isolated, goodness knows what else is happening to them in there. And that just was my gut feeling, it would be about that. It would be a lot higher than in the outside world.
Okay.
Well, I think there's probably a number of reasons. Clearly the stress of being in prison in itself, but there's also the fact that you've mucked up your life, you've maybe mucked up the life of other people around you. And also I think there's, if people commit crimes in the first place, probably indicates that there's some imbalance with them. So I think there's a number of reasons why. There's one of the things is that in recent years, over the last 50 years, there's been an increasing number of people who previously would have been held in institutions because of mental difficulties, who are in the community, and there's a lot of people feel there's not enough care in the community for them, and these are often the people who commit crimes and are obviously going to be more susceptible to taking their own life because of their mental condition. But so I think, not altogether a surprising thing that you get a higher level of self-inflicted death in prisons than in the community at large.
Okay, thank you.
To summarise the entire interview, I would say that it is very difficult to rehabilitate prisoners, as there are not many opportunities for them after prison, and they would have to do a very low-paying job, which means that they could easily get introduced back into the illegal substances or selling them just to make money. When you are in prison, it gives you a lot of time to think about what you may have done. Now, this can put many people into a dark space. This could lead to suicides, meaning there is no way to rehabilitate someone and put them back into society safely. This could make their possible wife or parents very upset, and then it could lead to them possibly self-harming or taking their lives too, meaning there's a butterfly effect. Conditions in prison are very tough. Now, you may say something like, "Oh, but that will make them never want to come back." But after they face those horrible conditions, then they may seriously start considering taking their own lives, or possibly taking their anger out on another cellmate. Here are some examples of tough conditions in prisons. Example 1. Prisoners spend 23 hours per day in jail cells. This, if you have claustrophobia, could be very damaging to your mental health and possibly make you think about committing suicide or slitting your wrists. Example 2. You could look at someone in the wrong way and then be picked on for ages, and it's not like in school where maybe you'll be called a name or two. you'll be physically assaulted almost every day. It must also be very hard to hire guards for your prison, as many riots and assaults on guards happen all the time in prison, such as pool balls being thrown at them. Another example is that prisoners can easily obtain a drug called spice by people from the outside throwing it over the walls. This could easily be combated by having a guard patrol or one or two being outside looking around the walls, seeing if there are any drugs on the ground. Another example is that budget cuts can just ruin prisons. It can make prisoners go unfed and lower the amount of staff, lessen the hygiene of the building, and overall make it an unsafe place for prisoners. Another example is that many people believe that people who originally were not aggressive in any form become aggressive because they've been put in that environment, therefore worsening them, and if they put them back into the outside world, then they'll almost definitely reoffend. Though prison isn't all bad, it definitely deters a lot of people from committing crimes as they view it as rock bottom. There's also a lot of attention put towards prison by the media, so people just know what they might get into if they get in trouble. The media also makes it sound worse, so people just don't even think about committing any crimes. Though it seems that the public want to make prison worse, as 2/3 of them say they want to make prison harder. And Professor David Wilson went as far to say as it is a way of making bad people worse. Offenders could also purposely try and put themselves in prison, as it could be better conditions, as prison pays £40,000 per prisoner, and as some people live in terrible conditions, it could be better for them to be in prison. Though there are charities working to help prisoners, such as the Prison Reform Trust. It's an independent UK charity working to create a humane and effective prison system. They do this by inquiring the workings of the system, informing prisoners, staff and the wider public, and by influencing Parliament, government and officials towards reform. The 3 things they are trying to do: number 1, reducing unnecessary imprisonment and promoting community solutions to crime. Number 2, improving their treatment and conditions for prisoners and their families. Number 3, they want to promote equality and human rights in the justice system. They believe that prisons should be reserved for the people whose offending is so serious and so horrible that they cannot serve their sentences in the community. It would just be too dangerous. And the Prison Reform Trust believes that the only justification for the sentence of imprisonment is the measured punishment of an individual for an offence. It is not right to use prison as a gateway to services or treatment, or to attempt to use prison in place of effective crime prevention.